What's up, friends, and welcome back to the channel. So a ton of new wearables emerged this year, some great, some not so great. But if you're in the market for a new tracker, either for yourself or for someone else, or maybe you're just looking to upgrade from what you've got, then you have come to the right place. And to help eliminate some decision-making fatigue that often comes with the holidays, I have narrowed this list down to what I think are just the top 3 best health trackers of the year right now, including the Oura Ring, the Whoop, and the Apple Watch Ultra. So in this video, we're going to take a deep dive into each one of these devices as it relates to their core features and design, the pros and cons, what the overall experience is like, and of course, price. So starting with the Whoop 4, and let me just preface this by saying I definitely had my reservations about this device, the membership fee and all that stuff, but I decided to give it another shot this year, and I'm actually really glad I did because it's proven to be a really dependable tracker that offers a lot more than just data points. And that's because, well, the Whoop makes actionable insights a priority when it comes to things like sleep, recovery, and performance. Sure, the metrics are still there, and you will get plenty of them each day. Do not fret about that, including things like skin temperature, HRV, heart rate, SpO2, you name it. But the thing that really stands out for me are their reports, which you'll get both weekly and monthly in the app. And so the weekly ones include a full breakdown of your latest stats and then how they compare to previous weeks. And then for the monthly reports, well, you'll get a ton of the way in terms of actionable insights related to behavior, your data, and activities. For instance, if I log all my sauna sessions, which I do almost every day, in my Whoop journal at night, well, at the end of the month, I'll see how this habit had an impact on both my sleep and recovery scores. And so overall, this is kind of a great way to sort of gauge the things that are working versus not, so you can start to make some more informed decisions about your routines instead of just shooting in the dark. Another thing to mention is they recently added a new mental health feature in these reports to highlight things like stress and mood and their impacts on your recovery scores. Now, it is still in beta mode, and I think you have to fill out a quick survey in order to access it, but I just think this is commendable to see a company that is kind of so fitness oriented start to really prioritize mental health as an important issue that should be taken into account when we talk about total health. Moving on to sleep, and I think the Whoop's done a great job optimizing for user experience and time when it comes to these reports. Only the most relevant stats like your sleep stages, your heart rate zones, and some of your baseline vitals are included in this report, which is something that I've actually come to appreciate because I used to really stress over my sleep scores when I first got started with the Oura Ring like a zillion years ago. And those one-off nights, it used to drive me crazy until I sort of realized over time that they're really inconsequential compared to your long-term trends. Now, that's not to say that sleep metrics, they don't matter at all. And if you're the person who likes to check every day, that's totally fine too. The point here really is to just keep these daily checks in context as it relates to the big picture. And so before we wrap up on the Whoop, just a couple more things to point out in terms of pros. First off, love their attachable battery pack. It's waterproof, it is super easy to slide on and off, and it gets a solid 4 to 5 days before needing to recharge. Hands down, one of my favorite features of all time. I wish all the wearables would have something like this, but super useful, especially for those people looking to wear this thing 24/7. Now, another plus for me is just how low profile in design it is. So if you aren't a fan of rings or bulky watches, the Whoop, it kind of strikes a nice chord in that it's discreet, yet durable, and it also offers just a lot of versatility. I mean, you can wear it on your wrist, the bicep, and now even in your clothing, but only with their Whoop apparel. Now, I haven't really messed around a lot with their Whoop body line because, well, I think the device works just fine on my wrist, and I have more workout gear than I even know what to do with. But it is an option for those who want it and can offer a bit more in the way of wearability, definitely for certain workouts and probably some contact sports. Turning now to the Oura Ring 3. And despite some mixed emotions that I had around its launch, I have to say the Ring is not without its upsides. So let's talk about those pros and some of the new features that you're going to get with the upgrade, starting with metrics. And so there were a couple new things the Oura now measures, including your all-day heart rate and blood oxygen levels. Now, when you compare this to a lot of other trackers on the market, doesn't seem all that mind-blowing, but given the Ring's really small size, it's actually quite impressive. It means that they really had to beef up on the hardware without compromising much on shape and form, which they did. And so the Gen 3 now includes an all-new vibration motor, 5 more temperature sensors, and believe it or not, 32 times the memory of the 2. Seems like a lot. As a result, they've been able to expand their repertoire of services beyond just sleep, which they're really good at. And so now you will find so much more in the way of just fitness and recovery tools, including a lot more data and insights around your workouts, including things like pacing, intensity, and even splits. The auto detection of workouts has gotten a lot better as well. And then they just introduced another new feature called Calorie Opt-out mode. So the Ring's default is to show you how many calories you burn each day based on your heart rate and activity levels. Though definitely questionable in accuracy for sure. We'll get to that in a sec. But I think Oura finally realized that calorie burn is not everyone's goal. And in fact, seeing these numbers every day could be triggering for some people. So the good news is now you have the option to remove it and replace it with step counts instead. Now, this is definitely not a perfect substitution by any means, but at least they're moving in a more conscious direction on this issue. And it's something I can only hope we start to see other companies do as well. Moving on to the recovery stuff, and Oura's now made it a whole lot easier to check on this with their new restorative time feature, which uses your all-day heart rate tracking to determine how relaxed you've been throughout the day. They also have a rest mode feature. This has been around since the 2, but I figured I'd mention it because this allows you to actually pause your activity goals for the week, or really however long you need, whenever you're feeling kind of run down or just want to prioritize rest. Now, as far as sleep goes, well, not much has changed on the metrics front aside from some new heart rate and breathing stats. You'll still get your nightly score along with all your data on things like sleep stages, movement, and HRV, which leads us to the Apple Ultra. And in full disclosure, I just didn't have it in the budget this year to go out and buy this ultra expensive device for myself. But you know who did? My good friend, Shervin Shares. And since he's clearly done a lot of man on the street testing with this thing, I figured I would hit him up to talk about all the new features and really find out if it lives up to its price.
The 2 best features of the Apple Watch Ultra are the bigger battery and the action button. So if you're doing a lot of workouts where you want to have a precision start, for example, running or cycling, I think it's really important to be able to just press that button and your workout starts. Press that button and you go to a new segment. It's been really valuable for track workouts, for running for me right now. And then the second part of it is the battery life. Just having to charge it less often is really nice. And having the cellular on here, if I go about my day, the cellular really drains the battery, so that extra battery life helps survive the entire day.
I'm really curious, like, how you would say fitness tracking for you compares with the Apple Watch Ultra and say the Whoop specifically.
So I've been doing a lot of zone 2 heart rate training, and Apple Watch, I can pull up my wrist while I'm running and see which zone I'm in based on the color. It's really easy to see visually because like I'm moving, right? Everything's moving. It's hard to look at things. So the color just like snaps and I see what's going on. Whereas with the Whoop strap, if I want to see my heart rate, I have to pull out my phone and like be running with my phone in my hand. So that's a bit harder.
Oh man. So, okay. So then I guess the final question is like, is this worth the money and why?
Yeah, Tim Cook. Yeah. Of course, I'm gonna tell him it's worth the money. Send me the $300,000 check. Thanks, Tim. All right, talk to you later. Is it worth the money? It depends, right? It's like, what value are you looking for in a watch? Are there certain goals you're chasing, and is this tool gonna get you there? So for me, like, I want to run a half marathon in February. I want to run a full marathon next year. And having an accurate watch that can track my workouts and tell me like distance, pacing, heart rate is really important. So I want to have like the best watch that I can. And then this is also a computer on my wrist. I can leave my phone at home and help my mental health. So there's a lot of different things that the Apple Watch does, and it does them good enough where I don't want to wear another watch, but I am wearing another watch.
And so to sum things up, the biggest pros of the Ultra seem to be the insane battery life, a bigger digital crown, and this new action button feature, which is also orange, and I love that. More workout metrics like your heart rate zones and form detection for running, and enhanced durability, since it seems to be virtually indestructible to all of the elements. But moving on to the downsides now, and as for the Whoop, I think the biggest limitation for me is that ultimately you're dependent on your phone and the app if you want to record a workout. Yes, there is the Apple Health integration that will import your data directly from your Apple Watch to the Whoop, but then that requires you to have a second device, which to me sort of defeats the point of the Whoop being a standalone tracker. Now, on top of that, there's still no airplane mode, which is kind of a bummer, and maybe even a deal breaker for people concerned about EMFs. That's not to say you must have your Bluetooth on 24/7, but the Whoop can only hold like 3 days of data before you need to sync. And then if you wait that long, it takes a really long time to sync after that. Now, as for the Oura, well, the Gen 3 kind of took a hit on battery life as a trade-off for all the new sensors they added. And so now you're looking at like 4 days max before needing to recharge, whereas I could sometimes go 6 to 7 days with my Gen 2. Another tool that just isn't cutting it for me anymore are the Oura Ring sleep tags. I mean, they're pretty much useless to log because the data seems to go nowhere. There's no report that tracks these habits and their impact on your sleep. So I don't even bother doing them anymore because it just feels like a waste of time. And then the last thing to mention is about their new menstrual tracking feature. So I had high hopes for this thing given all the new temperature sensors they add, but so far Oura has been wrong at predicting my period 100% of the time. And when I say wrong, I mean off by like 2 to 3 weeks wrong. Now, granted, this is only an N of 1 study, me being one. So I encourage you to please chime in below if you have similar thoughts or maybe you've had a better experience with this. But all I know from my experience using it for the past year is that it hasn't been a reliable source for me. And it's kind of sad because they really hyped it up during launch. And then finally, we come to the Ultra Watch. And I can only speak to my limited experience testing it out in the Apple Store. I know, super lame. But the biggest downside for me, I think it's pretty obvious, aside from price, is just the massive size. The screen is larger than life and frankly, kind of distracting. And then the weight of it feels like I'm wearing 2 to 3 watches stacked on top of each other. Then as for the fitness data, it seems like a lot of the new fancy metrics that they added really just have to do with running, which that's great if that's your sport. But I also think there are just a lot of cheaper options out there if you're buying it for just this. I also wouldn't buy it if you're looking for heavy duty sleep tracking because right now it's just not Apple's bread and butter. So now that we've covered the pros and the cons and everything in between, let's wrap things up with just a quick discussion around price. So with the Whoop, the device technically is free, but does require a subscription to use it. And so that fee will range between $18 to like $30 a month, depending on your upfront commitment. Now the Oura Ring costs $300 upfront. It's a flat fee. Then it's gonna also cost an additional $6 a month indefinitely if you're new to Oura, though the first month is free. So there's that. And then the Apple Watch Ultra, that's gonna cost a whopping $800 upfront, almost the cost of another phone. But the good news is, doesn't require a subscription to use it. So when you crunch all those numbers together, technically you could get like 27 months or a little over 2 years out of the Whoop. You could also get 67 months or like 5.5 years with the Oura before hitting the price of what the Ultra costs upfront today. So that being said, it depends on just where you want to put your money and how invested you are in the tracker itself and all its different capabilities. Overall, I'd say the Whoop is really great if you're looking to get heavy into training and recovery. I think Oura Ring, hands down, still gives you the most amount of data on sleep. And then the Apple Watch Ultra, well, it works if you're already invested in the Apple ecosystem and think you'll use this watch as much, if not more, than your phone. But that being said, if this is your first tracker ever and these are not in your budget, I mean, that's okay. I would probably start with something less expensive anyway. Go with the cheapest Apple Watch on the market or try out a Fitbit. Just try to get a feel for what it's like to start tracking and notice if it's actually having an impact on your behaviors. You can always upgrade to something else later. But I am not a financial advisor. I just review products on the internet for a living. But if for some reason you buy the Apple Watch and you are not at all 100% satisfied with your purchase, please feel free to hit up Shervin at Shervin Shares on YouTube with any and all of your complaints. But really, you gotta check out his video. He got over 1 million views in a record amount of time. I honestly just have to say, I am so freaking proud of him. He's been working on this channel since he was a child.
Katie, what are you doing back there?
Hey, why are you in my bedroom?
Oops.
Get out. And it's just amazing to see one of my best friends, my first friend on YouTube, by the way, first friend, just really blossom into his own. And so just so much love for you, Shervin. Congrats. And well, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I'll be back next week. We're gonna cover cold plunge and sauna tech. Got some fun stuff ahead for you guys. So make sure you subscribe, stay tuned. And until then, I cannot wait to catch you on